I was pleasantly surprised to see how quickly after it premiered in theaters that the movie Don't Worry Darling was available on cable. And certainly that it wasn't in a format where you had to rent the movie to watch it. I was really surprised when I saw that it was on HBO already and you could just click and watch it. So I was so excited. I'd been wanting to watch this movie. There's a lot in the press about it, and I said, let's watch it. And after watching it, I definitely had to make a video about it. But don't worry, darling. I'm not going to give any spoilers. I'm just going to tell you what I think about this movie. And so let's get started. Let me start by saying that I really enjoyed this movie. There's a lot of reviews out there, people criticizing it, saying that it was not what they expected, it was below expectations, and all these criticisms. So when I went into it, I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm not going to enjoy this, but I actually did. Let's get into the premise, and you can pretty much figure this out by watching the trailer, so obviously no spoilers here. The movie pretty much centers around the two main characters, which are Alice and Jack. They're a married couple, they're young, and they are played by the brilliant Florence Pugh and Harry Styles in what I think was a better than expected performance. More on that later. They live in this picturesque neighborhood of Victory. It is centered somewhere in the California desert. It basically looks like a beautiful Palm Springs in the 50s or 60s. And what's very clear about this community is that it's evocative of a time when the idea or the perception was that men are happiest when they go out to work and the wives are happiest when they're at home, they're cleaning, they are, spending time doing shopping during the day and then cleaning and making these elaborate dinners for their husbands when they come home. And so in this environment, everything seems like it's perfectly in its place. And throughout the movie, it's very clear that despite the perfection of the environment, something is wrong. Okay, that's really all you need to know, and that's all you're going to get by watching the trailer. And I felt compelled to make this review because there's so many negative reviews out there about the movies. The critics were not very kind to the movie, and after watching it, I was thinking, if any other director had made this movie, they would have gotten kinder reviews. Maybe they wouldn't have said that the movie was perfect, but if Jordan Peele or M. Night Shyamalan had made this, the critics would have been kinder in their reviews. If there was any other director who, as in the case of Olivia Wilde, who was the director of this movie, if there was somebody this was their second directorial project, the critics would have been very kind. They would have been very generous. They would have said, this is a triumph for your second movie for a director that doesn't have a lot of experience. And so it was very clear to me that most of the reviews of this movie were very biased. And we all know why they were biased. The scandals that happened behind the scenes on the set of this movie overshadowed the actual movie. And I think that played a big role in making people feel so disappointed in the movie. I guess they were thinking, man, this better be good after all these scandals. But you know what? Why don't we just judge the work for what it is, for the actual work? And that's what I intend to do in this review. First of all, I'm going to tell you what I loved most about this movie. The cinematography. It was absolutely beautiful. The colors were so vibrant. The wide shot, the shots from above, a lot of thought clearly went into making this visually stunning, and they really did a great job doing it. The fashion, very evocative of the era. Like I said, it was the 50s or the 60s. I'm sure that there were clues to specify exactly what decade it was, but it falls somewhere in that era. The colors, I have to tell you, I'm a child of the 70s. Most of the childhood that I remember was in the 80s. And for a large part of my growing up, we had an avocado green refrigerator in the house. So watching those colors, those vintage colors, really brought this sense of memories. Also, when I was growing up, we moved to a newly developed community. And I remember when we had just moved, because we were in a quiet street on a cul-de-sac, and we were one of the first families that moved. So I remember this feeling as a child of just spending hours every day, just, walking around and riding a tricycle through the empty street and seeing the homes. They all kind of look the same. That brought a lot of memories. I think that's one of the reasons why I connected with this film, because it really brought back those feelings of an era where everything was open and you weren't locked in the house, and you could be outside and the sun was shining and everything was brand new, and the streets and the homes and everything was brand new. I really enjoyed watching that and allowing it to take me back. The perfection is reflected through the synchronicity that you see when all the men leave together in their cars, they go to work. The women, when they go to ballet class, everybody's moving in synchronicity. And even when they're home and they're doing their housewife duties, there's a synchronicity, almost like a dance, when they're floating through the house, cleaning and making the bed and making breakfast. Everything seems like it's in perfect order. And for this machinery to continue to go in the way it's going, everybody has to continue playing their part at the same rhythm as everybody else. Now, of course, we know that real life doesn't work that way. Everything isn't in perfect order. Everybody isn't happy doing the same thing every day. It actually is something that can be quite depressing when you have to do the exact same thing every single day. And we have studies that show that the people in those days that were in this kind of dance of we do the same thing every day, everybody stays in their lane, there was a lot of depression, there was a lot of unhappiness that was going on. But in this world, it just seems like everything is perfect. Like in the movies, like in the TV shows of the era, everybody seems to be very happy. Of course, we know something is off. If you look at some of the scenes of, when she realizes that there's nothing inside the egg, when she's starting to see things, all of this is shown in the trailer. Something is amiss, something is afoot, something is off. What brings me to the category of this movie, and one of the reasons why I enjoyed it, it's a psychological thriller, it's a suspense movie, and it's adding this element of surrealism. Surrealism. I love surrealism as a category of movies. I'm a huge fan of Afro surrealism, which is what Jordan Peele does in his movies Get Out and Us. I haven't seen Nope. I'm waiting for it to come out on cable because I really want to see it. What else? What other movie? Good Hair, I believe that was the name of the movie. That also has that Afro surrealism. The series Atlanta has really delved into this category now that it's in its last 2 seasons. It's really embraced that category of storytelling, and I really love it. And in this setting, in this suburban perfect setting, I think it works wonderfully, because the thing about surrealism is that things feel very real, very normal, but there's something that's off. And when you have an environment that is so perfect and everything is in order and everything is going exactly the way it's supposed to be, any little thing that deviates from that gives you that feeling of, even if it's something that in other settings would be unnoticeable, because everything is presenting so perfectly, anything that deviates from that perfection feels off. And in the examples that we see in the trailer, these aren't just some things that are kind of off. There's some things that are really, really off in this environment. Things are happening that are not supposed to happen in any environment. And so I really enjoyed that about this movie. And it actually made me watch it back to back the day when I watched it. Another thing that I really liked about the movie, which is one of the things that people criticize the most from me watching it, is the pace it took to get to the point. I think they did it the right way. I've heard a lot of people compare this movie to The Truman Show, The Matrix, and also Stepford Wives. Those are very good examples of movies that you could compare and say, okay, the storyline kind of went along those lines. But to me, The movie that came to mind when thinking about what I could compare this story to was Memento, the movie by Christopher Nolan. He wrote and directed the movie. I think it's one of the most brilliant movies I've ever seen. It kind of reminded me of that because in the movie, he's kind of working things backwards. And to me, that is what this reminded me of. Not exactly. Memento is a classic. It's a movie that was way ahead of its time. Don't worry, darling, it's not really going to be remembered as such. It was a movie that you can pretty much, about 20 minutes in, I kind of figured out what was going on. So it wasn't something that was innovative and new and opened up a new category. I wouldn't call it that, but if I'm going to compare it to something based on the format of the pace in which the movie moved along, I would say that it reminded me of that. Yes, there were a lot of slow scenes. That is a fair criticism. There were lots of scenes where you watch Alice just standing there thinking, and it can get frustrating. This is something that I noticed that happens a lot. I don't know what it is, but there's always that character, it's usually a woman, that is being portrayed as somebody who just stands there thinking and looking into the distance and and you're just like, can we move on to the next thing? I mean, we just saw what happened. Let's just move on. You know, directors, stop doing that. We don't need all that space. We don't need all that time. We're ready for the next thing. So yeah, there were moments of that. However, I think the movie did a really good job of dropping little Easter eggs as we went along, letting us know that something is happening. And it was enough of those moments to keep me interested, perked up in my chair and paying attention. So I don't think it was a fair criticism to say that the movie moved slow. There were some slow scenes, but the scenes progressed in a really good way in which they're kind of driving you towards the answers that you're seeking. I even heard somebody say that the movie failed because it should have started from the beginning and gone to the middle. If it had started from the beginning, then it would have given out the plot. What would be the point of, I mean, I could see what you mean, but it's more interesting when you don't really know what's happening at the beginning. You start at the middle and you kind of go along until you get to the big reveal. And I heard a lot of people also comparing it, like I said, to the Truman Show. Let me say this, the Truman Show is one of those movies I wish somebody would remake, because I don't think it was presented in the correct way when it first premiered. It was a great story, but the way it started in the middle and didn't really give you the background, to me, failed for that movie, because in Don't Worry, Darling, we don't know the plot. We don't know what's happening. So it's good that we start in the middle, work it to the end, and then realize how it started. With the Truman Show, before the movie premiered, we already knew what the plot was. It's this guy that is starring in a reality show, and he's the only one who doesn't know that he's starring in the reality show because he's been starring from the time he's a baby, and this is what he thinks is real life. So we already know what the plot is. There's no big reveal in the Truman Show. So for me, it would have been better if the Truman Show had started from the beginning. How did we get here? I want to see the meetings at the production company when people say, you can't do that, this is so immoral. I would have loved to have seen that in the beginning. I would have loved to have seen when the baby, when the cameras came on, the baby growing up over the years and growing into a man. I would have loved to see all of that fleshed out. As a matter of fact, I would have loved to see a sequel if it would have taken enough time to explain it from the beginning, and then we get to the middle, and then the sequel gives us the end or whatever it was. I would love to see somebody else take on the movie and give it that treatment, because I think it would have been more interesting in terms of a psychological drama / comedy. I really would have liked to see that. And, if anybody's watching, I would really like to see that. Now, the thing everybody's in agreement with is that Florence Pugh did a fantastic job. Fantastic. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. She did a fantastic job. Now, about Harry's performance, there was a lot of criticism saying that it was too subdued. Guys, if you watch the whole movie and you understand what role each one of them are playing, you would understand why he had to keep his cool in the midst of her seeing all these things and knowing that something is wrong. You would understand why he had to keep his composure, stay calm, and be like, hey, nothing is wrong, everything is fine. He did exactly what he needed to do to convey that. And we know who directed him, his now ex-girlfriend, Olivia, and she directed him exactly the way he had to be directed. There were some scenes where he had his outbursts, and I think he did a really good job emoting when he had to in those scenes, and when he had to play it calm, he did so. So I think he did a good job. Is he a Denzel Washington level actor? Of course not, but I think he's off to a really good start. If this is how he's starting off, this is good, guys. Give him his flowers. He did a good job. Finally, I just want to say that it's very clear why critics were so harsh on this movie. The number one reason is because, like I said, the behind the scenes drama way overshadowed the actual movie. For those of you who don't know, the director, Olivia Wilde, who also played Bunny brilliantly in the movie, by the way, she ended up having an affair with Harry Styles, who played Jack. And these kinds of things happen all the time. But what was really scandalous about it is that Olivia was she ever married to Jason Sudeikis? I don't think they ever got married. They had 2 kids. Maybe they were. I should Google that. Let me. No, they never got married. They were engaged for 7 years. That says a lot, doesn't it? Yeah, but so they were together though. They were a family. They had 2 children that they were raising together. This was her big directorial project. I'm sure he was Well, I don't know what was going on in their engagement, in their relationship. The point is, they broke up because of her affair. This was a big scandal. Jason Sudeikis is very beloved in the industry. He plays a very beloved character I'm gonna put the title here because I don't watch it, but it's very popular. He's very beloved. It was very scandalous, very unsavory. Infidelity is never okay, under no circumstances. End the relationship before you move on. Also, Florence was not happy about this whole dynamic. She also wasn't happy with the way the movie was promoted. There was infighting at their premiere. People were more focused on looking at the body language of the people on the red carpet and seated in the theater at the film festival. It really overshadowed what could have been a triumph for Olivia and all the cast and crew of this movie. But everybody was more interested in the drama off camera than on camera. So that was the main thing that derailed the goodwill that this movie should have received. But I also believed, when I looked at all the critics, the younger generation, people who are saying it's too slow and Harry's performance was too subdued and it was too... TikTok is rotting our brains. It is. All these little 10-second videos in fast succession are really short-circuiting our brain's ability to enjoy the slow process of storytelling. I am a Gen Xer. I am the last generation before the internet. And it really is disheartening sometimes to see what is happening, how we are losing the ability to enjoy the art of letting things unfold on their own and develop the way they're supposed to at a pace that is normal and that is more reflective of real life. In real life, things don't happen in a flash. It takes time. You know, the best roasts are those that take time and to in any case. Food that takes a long time to simmer and bake and cook tastes better than something that's microwavable. That's what I'm trying to say. And unfortunately, our brains are being shrunken with all this miniature rapid fire content. And it's a real shame, because movies are going to start changing. We're going to start seeing a lot of these fast-paced, everything is happening so quickly that you have to keep stopping it and rewinding, and it's just sad. It's just sad. Overall, this movie, out of 10, I give it a 7.5. This was a good movie. It was entertaining. It did what it was supposed to do. It gave us the suspense we wanted. It gave us the beautiful visuals we wanted. It gave us good acting. It gave us a good story. It gave us a nice plot twist, even though some of us already saw it from the beginning. But it was well worth the 2 hours that I sat and watched it. And then I watched it again. I liked it. I give it a thumbs up. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Did you like it? Have you watched it? Did I do a good job not to spoil it? Did I make you want to watch it? Let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to see me do reviews, if you'd like to see me talk about pop culture, life in general, please subscribe to my channel. I would really like to have you here. Please share this with somebody who hasn't watched the movie and doesn't want to see a spoiler-ridden review. Please give it a like if you enjoyed this, and I hope you will want to stick around for the next video.